or how a programmer that sees a computer. Okay. And basically, why we have to study the computer architecture? Uh, till now, whatever you had studied, you studied C programming language, you studied Python, you studied Java. Maybe in a few students in 11th and 12th, they had Java also. So all the programming languages you studied, and now in this semester, you are going to study in this semester, you are going to study the assembly level programming. That is, assembly level programming means we are going to talk to the hardware directly. Okay, we are going to instruct the hardware, like you have to use this register to store the variable. You have to use this memory. You have to use a floating point register, or you have to use the control register. So like that, we are going to instruct the memory to do the things. Okay. So now first I will discuss about what is computer architecture. So for that, so you can see my screen now. Computer architecture is nothing but it is an attribute that is visible to the programmer. How the programmer sees the computer. Okay, that is how we are seeing the computer. And the second point is attributes that have a direct impact on logical execution of the program. If a program is executing, what are all the attributes that have a impact on it? Okay. And the third one is the computer architecture. We call it as instruction set architecture. So what is instruction set architecture? That's what I told. If you want to access, or if you want to write hardware code, means if you want to access hardware level, or if you want to talk to hardware directly, you have to write the assembly code. So the assembly code is based on the instructions. Okay. So we can say this computer architecture also as an instruction set architecture. Okay. And what is the instruction set means? See, now we are just writing printf. It just, and whatever the arguments we want to print, we write it, right? But if you want to use assembly code, there is no printf statement. Okay. There is no scanf. Everything we have to write. Okay. We start from moving the value. Like we have to tell the computer that this value is stored in the memory, take the value from the memory, and then do the addition operation and store it in a register. Like this, every step by step, we have to instruct the computer. Okay. So this is called as assembly level programming. Assembly level programming is nothing but we are instructing the computer to do every step. Okay. That the computer won't do anything. Whatever we are saying, that one it follows. Okay. Uh, so we can say that instruction set architecture defines instruction format. That is, what's the format of the instruction? What are all the registers we are going to use? We are going to access whether instruction memory or data memory. And this opcode says what is the operation we are going to do. Are we going to do add operation, subtract operation, multiplication operation, or division operation? Which one we are going to do? It is given by this opcode. Okay. So we can say the example for the computer organization and architecture is nothing but it's an instruction set, number of bits used to represent the various data type, and IO mechanism and techniques. Next for addressing memory. Okay. So as I already told, computer architecture is nothing but how a programmer sees a computer. Okay. So now there are two things. The CPU wants an value from the external environment. Okay. The CPU is waiting for a value that some external device has to give to it. So there are two possible options. Either one is the CPU will go and check the external device whether the result that it needs is available there or not. Okay. So first it every X time units, X can be milliseconds, nanoseconds, microseconds, whatever may be. The CPU go and check the external device whether the data that I need is available or not. This is one possible way. Another one is whenever the data is available, the external device will interrupt the CPU. The CPU is always busy in doing some things. The external device will interrupt the CPU and say that the data you need is available now, you can use it. Okay, so there are two possible IO mechanisms. So all those things we will discuss in throughout the semester. Okay, so I had given what are the two possible mechanisms. One is CPU will go and check the external device every X time units. Second one is the external device will interrupt the CPU and say that the data you need is available now, you can use it. Okay, so which method is efficient? Either the method 1 or method 2 is efficient. Which method is efficient? According to you, which method is efficient?
1.
1. Oh, that is CPU is going and checking the external device, right? So that one is efficient. Okay, why? Why method 1 is efficient?
Ma'am, the CPU,
Hmm.
in the sense, I don't know how to put it, but it saves
No problem.
time.
Okay.
I would choose method 2.
Yes. Why method 2?
Because I think that CPU already has enough to deal with, not only with the booting, restarting and all,
Yes.
etc.
Yes.
I guess it will be a load off for the CPU to, take some work off and let the operand do its work and inform the CPU that I have the memory stored with me and you can come take it.
Yes. Good. Actually, in method 1, what is happening is the CPU, it is just going and checking the external device every X time units. Now, what is happening is if the CPU is having only that job, it is fine. It can go and keep on checking. If the CPU is already loaded with n number of works, so since it is just to keep on checking for only one job, what happens? All the remaining works will be pending. Okay, so that method 1 won't be efficient that much. In the method 2, the CPU will be keep on busy in doing its own work. Whenever the external device is available with the value the CPU needed, it just to come and inform the CPU that the device, the external device will inform the CPU that the data you need is available. Now you can use it. Okay, so both the methods have advantages and disadvantages. Based on the application, we can say that method 1 is good for some application and method 2 is good for some application. In that way, method 2 is good for our general purpose computer. What we are using is general purpose, right? Our CPU is general purpose. We can use for anything. So for a general purpose computer, method 2 is good. CPU is busy in its operation. When the external data is available, it interrupt the CPU and CPU start working on the data that it got from the external environment. Okay, so now we discussed about computer architecture. So what is computer architecture? Means you have to think yourself how you are seeing a computer as a programmer. Okay, that is the attribute visible by a programmer. Okay, so that's where you have to relate. Whatever you are studying, relate with yourself and the external environment so that you won't forget the things. And second point is it deals with the attributes that have an impact on the execution of the program. And the third point is we call the computer architecture as instruction set architecture. Why instruction set architecture? because instructions are the base. We are writing high level code. That our high level code is converted to a code that is that the hardware can understand. Correct. Those things are called as the assembly code. Okay, and we will discuss about the assembly code in the next consecutive classes. Okay. So basically the assembly code will look like this. It's having an operation and the operands. So which operation and what are all the operands? Okay, so those that's a format of an instruction set or instruction set. So instruction set architecture defines instruction format, what's the opcode and what is the register, instruction and data memory. Okay. Next is, as I told, their examples are instruction set. And another one is based on our application. If my application, I need to represent a floating point value, which data type I choose float. So, and if I want to represent a 32-bit value, which data type I choose. So all those things plays a role for the computer architecture. Okay. And now we are going to discuss about computer organization. What is computer organization? As the name says, it refers to the operation units of the computer, which is nothing but different components on the computer, how it is connected. Okay, that is the meaning of computer organization. From our school, we are studying computer is having CPU, memory, input, output, and all the things are connected by a bus. Okay. So basically, this is the one we are going to study in computer organization. We are going to discuss about what are all the computer components, how it is connected. Okay. Most of the concepts we studied in school, that is the theory or the working behind it. What we are going to study in the engineering level is next level. How are we going to design our own architectural components? Design in the sense not coding, paper level design. If I'm giving you like this, I need a cache memory to work for a 24-bit computer. Then by the end of the semester, you can design your own cache memory. Okay. So all the things, whatever we are discussing and whatever I'm saying in the beginning, by the end of the semester also, I will discuss. That time you can relate it properly and you can do the things by yourself. Okay. So throughout the semester, we are going to learn this. So organization is nothing but operation units and their interconnections. What are all the different components of the computer, how they are connected. Okay. So in this subject, you are going to study about computer architecture as well as computer organization. Okay. Because architecture and organization together or means together is a computer. Okay. So first I will discuss about as IBM mainframe computers. Okay. In that IBM that 370, many of you would have heard it. So most of the computers from 1970s, if you start, all the computers will be having the same architecture features. Okay, the instruction set is same. Okay, but our organization is different. That means that computer components are different. In the old computers, it was a 4-bit computer, next 8-bit computer, next 16-bit computer, next 32-bit computer has come. After that, 2-core processor has come. Then quad-core processor, octo-core processor. Correct. All those things are different in terms of organization. That is, operational units are different, how they are connected are different. But when we take about the instruction set or from a programmer point of view, everything is same. Okay. Computers are differing in terms of organization concept. When referred to the programmer view, it is same. Okay. See, in the lab, now you can see, at least now all the systems are good. We could see a duo-core system. Whatever the program you are doing in the duo-core system is same as that of the program that you are doing in the octa-core processors, correct? Our program is not changing, correct? So from the architecture point of view, everything is same. Maybe the components as well as the hardware features are more. Okay, so that's what I had written here. In IBM 370, introduced in 1970, there are lot many models had come. Many new models are introduced with improved technology to replace the older models. It offers a greater speed or lower cost or both, but all the new models retain the same architecture. Architecture is same. Okay, so this way, this is very important. If you are able to understand the differentiate between architecture and organization, this is the first and important step for the subject. What is architecture? What is organization? So architecture means you have to think of yourself, how you are seeing a computer. That's all. Organization means different components, how it is connected. This is organization. Okay. So now we are going to discuss about what are all the functions of a computer. What are all the functions of a computer? We are studying this from class 1. What are the function of computer? Generally, what computer perform? Anyone? What computer perform?
Multitasking.
Huh?
Multitasking.
Multitasking, yes. Don't go into too much of technical level. Just say from a layman point of view. Like we are still in the beginning stage. Later we'll move to
Accepts
multitasking.
the input.
Yes,
Accepts
very
the input,
good.
process the
Very
input
good.
and produces
Very good.
the output.
Yes. So it takes data as input. It does some processing on it and it gives us the output. Yes. So basically it is doing data processing and it is doing data movement from the external environment. It's getting some data. It is doing some processing and it is giving some output to the external environment. Correct? So data processing is there, data movement is there, and any other operation? Any other operation? Yes, computing is it will come under processing. No, any other thing.
Storage.
Very good. Storage. Yeah, it is processing the data. Meanwhile, it has to store the data. No, so data storage is also there. Next. So 3 points we studied: data processing, data movement, storage, and next. Another important thing. We need somebody to control all the things. No. So that is the control operation. So a computer is doing basically 4 operation, or the function of a computer is 4. One is data processing. So a computer, it's a complex system and the function of a computer is the operation of each individual component as a part of a structure. So now function of the computer is, it is a data processing, data storage, data transfer and controlling. Okay. So what is data processing? It gets the data from the external environment, process on it and it gives the output. Okay. So now let us take a system. I'll give you a real-time embedded system. Okay. So in a tank level monitoring system, in a fuel tank level monitoring system, you would have heard about it. Or in a very easy way, we can say that in all our house that water tank is there. No, it's most of our houses is having an automatic. It has to switch if the water level goes below certain level. It has to switch on the motor automatically. Correct. So now for the system that motor has to switch on automatically. Correct. This is the system that we are going to discuss today. So for that system, the input is the water, correct? If the every time it will just check the water level, they keep some threshold or water level, and the system will keep on checking whether the water level goes below the threshold level. If it goes below the threshold level, immediately it will switch on the motor. Okay. So for the monitoring system, input is the water level. Computation is that it compares with the threshold level. Output is nothing but if the water level is less than the threshold level, motor has to be switched on. Okay. So this is the example that you can relate it to the function of a computer. It takes input, do some processing and give some output. Correct? So now there is a storage. Yeah, we have to store the threshold level in a variable. Basically, we can store it in a variable. We can use it. Okay. So data processing is there, data storage is there, data transfer is there, and then control. Okay. In most of our real world environment, we can see all these type of computations. Correct. It takes the data, do some process, and then gives the output. Correct. Whether any other example for like this, any other real world examples like getting the data, doing some computation and giving the output? Are you able to come up with any other example? Anyone? No one. Are you able to understand my question? My question is you have to give some example where the computer has to take the input, the computer or the computing system has to take the input, process on it, and it gives the output. Okay. And it should not, and it has to be a real world application. Okay. I'm asking about the application.
Smoke
Yes.
detectors. Smoke detectors.
Yes. For the smoke detectors, what is the input?
Smoke.
Smoke. What's the output?
Water.
Water. Okay. So what could be the threshold? What's the computation?
Atmospheric particles. It detects it. So after it detects the smoke, it starts the alarm and
yes. So it has to raise an alarm and then it has to spray the water. So what he's saying is in most of the shopping malls and in apartments, they have the smoke detection. Even in our college also it is there. No, its reduction system is there where when it sends that smoke or fire, it has to raise an alarm and it has to immediately start spraying the water. Correct? So this is one example. Any other example? So whatever the concept you are studying, you have to relate it to the real world example. Then only you can feel the subject. Okay. That's how you can relate the subject to the real world environment. Next, any other example? All of you are having cake, puff, samosa and all these things, no? So you can tell the example related to this, all bakery products. So do we need this?
Microwave.
Okay, microwave. What's the input? What's the computation? What is the output? Correct. But just tell what's the input for it, but how it is means what's the computation or processing and what's the output?
Input is the products we put and the temperature we set.
Okay, input is the ingredients. Temperature we set. Yes. Output is the end product. Whatever the bakery item that is the one. Good. So all are basically, it's a computer. We can say it is an embedded system. Okay. It's an embedded system which is nothing but it's a programmable computer for a small applications. Correct. So that's also a computer. Next.
Automatically driven cars.
Yes, very good. Automatic driven cars, self-driven cars. In that,
robotics, artificial intelligence.
yes, in automatic car means that is self-drive cars. Input is nothing but road image, correct?
Yes.
And then it does processing on it. It does image processing to identify whether any object is there. It can be a human being or object or any object. And then output is it has to stop the vehicle, correct? Yes. In most of the real world applications, it performs all the operation. Getting the data, processing on it, and then it is doing some computation. Okay. Sensing, processing, actuators. Okay. If you are able to relate this, then by this end of the semester, you can design your, as I already told, no, using the Arduino, like last year people were doing some, we did basic lab programs, but in this lockdown, they did quite a few interesting projects and they shared with me. That's very motivating for them also. Even you can do more. This time we plan to do more experiments in Arduino so that you will get an exposure to IoT in a third semester only. That's a very, very, very good advantage when you talk about yourself in the interview. Like when people get to know that you are exposed to IoT things in the earlier semesters, and you are not going to tell something that you are not like whatever you are going to do, that only will explain. So that gives a good impression. Okay. So that way I can say that way you can showcase you better. Okay. So that's what that's the reason I'm asking so many questions, so that you can relate to this real world environment, and all these ideas you can keep in the mind, and you can design a small prototype for this also. Okay. And next, what are the structure of a computer? This one we are studying from our school. Correct? Computer means we know there is a CPU, there is a memory, there is input, output, all the things are connected by a bus. So that's what I had drawn. See, this is the first topic in the chapter. I'll share the soft copy of the book, and 1 second in the group only I'll post this. Maybe after the class I'll share this first page of the book, and I'm using the 10th edition. The title of the book is Computer Architecture and Computer Organization and Architecture, 10th edition by William Stallings. Okay, Computer Organization and Architecture, 10th edition by William Stallings. Okay, this is the book we are following for theory, and for lab there is one more book, Professional Assembly Code by Richard Blum. Okay, that book also I'll share the first page. I think so. I'm having the soft copy of that book. This one I'm not sure. I will check. And then there are so many. Okay, copies are available in the libraries, but anyhow now we cannot access it. So let me check with the library fellow whether he had that soft copy of this book. If that's the case, I'll get from him and I'll share it with you all. Okay, because I got other editions, soft copy edition. I will check. Okay, so now we'll discuss about the structure of the computer. That's first, as I already told, there is a main memory, there is are connected by system bus. Okay, the figure is called as the internal structure of a traditional single process computer. Okay, these are all the basics. After this, we'll move to the multi-core processor. We'll discuss about why multi-core processor and what's the need of multi-core processor. Why do we need a multi-core processor? All the things we will discuss. Okay, I think so. Meeting will get over within 1 minute. After that, reconnect using the same link. Okay, and then okay, now we'll stop here. We'll reconnect it. Okay.